Welcome back. Last week, when the government decided to close the doors of schools across the country, an estimated £25 million of food was wasted. Now, in the latest policy change, scrapping food hampers in favour of vouchers is expected to create even more waste. Well, one school catering company says it's determined not to send any food to landfill. Joining me now is the director at Dolce School Catering, Adam Curtis. Good morning to you. So what's your plan? How are you going to prevent the surplus going to landfill?
Morning, Gillian. Well, as a caterer, there's a few different things that we do to avoid food going to landfill. First of all, we've got to try and repurpose what we can. This food's for children's school meals, so we might have to freeze our meat. We might have to make sauces, soups, take as much of the fresh produce as we can and repurpose that. Of course, it's not always possible. We're limited with fridge and freezer space in schools. So we've also got to move stock between schools to schools with larger fridge and freezer space. And then there's a surplus beyond that. Now, we teamed up with the Real Junk Food Project, and Adam Smith, the founder, advised us on how to get food out to those who need it the most, not just by dumping on food banks, but actually taking it out to projects within the community.
And do you have the necessary resources to do that?
We're quite lucky that we're a family farm that's not massive, and we're quite agile. So we've got a good relationship from school to kitchen to the team running the show. So we were able to get a lot of support actually from the shop floor to help reach out to the communities and see who could take the food and how we could work with the homeless and the vulnerable in the community.
So how do you get around the expiry date of the foods? As well as, you know, repurposing it, how do you get around that specific?
Well, obviously you can cook food off and then refrigerate. Things can be done like that. But with the likes of the homeless hubs, community hubs, they're able to take food that wouldn't otherwise be able to be taken by food banks. They've got teams, you know, certainly at the Real Junk Food Project, they have a team of nutritionalists that can analyse food to see whether it's fit for consumption or not. You know, if you've got a stem of Brussels sprouts, they actually stay on that stem and stay fairly fresh for a long time past their sell-by date. And that's where community hubs, people feeding the homeless, etc., are able to utilise this food and put it to a good use rather than landfill.
What's been your view, your impression of some of the food hampers that we've seen on social media? You'll know the pictures that I'm talking about. In terms of the quality, what did you think when you saw that?
I think it's been disappointing to see food hampers that are lacking in quality and lacking in substance. It's also been quite there's been quite a variation in what we've seen in terms of hampers and what's been on offer. I think a lot of this boils down to the company, but I think a lot of it also boils down to how much subsidy was actually provided. I think what's also kind of largely missed is that putting this to school meals caterers rather than putting it to the supermarket, school meals caterers have a huge burden of running a kitchen and all the associated costs. The government knew this and knew that we weren't going to be able to compete with what could be given out at supermarket level. Plus, wholesale price is more expensive because a van goes out to lots of small individual primary schools in the rural areas. So you've got that extra cost. So really, it is incomparable with what you can get in a supermarket. But I think also caterers can do a lot better than what we've seen on social media.
Marcus Rashford is calling for an urgent review. He's calling on the government to put forth an urgent review. What specifically do you think needs to be done?
Well, we strongly welcome this, and you know it's great to have the support there for that. In my mind, what needs to be done succinctly is free school meals were funded, universal infant free school meals were funded in 2014 at the rate of £2.30. In the last 7 years, it just was increased in 6 months ago by 4 pence. Now, if you take that as a percentage from £2.30 to £2.34 in 7 years, with the food inflation we've seen, it's minuscule. So I think what the Conservatives have done here is underfund school meals like other projects that they aren't interested in. Instead of looking unpopular by stopping it, It's been underfunded to the point it's creaking at the seams, and it's not kept up with inflation. Now, what I'd welcome happening is that Marcus Rashford and the celebrity chefs, in conjunction, hopefully, with our trade body for school meals, which is LASA, which supports all the nutritional guidelines, helps enforce and come up with these rules and lobby government. Hopefully, they can work together to lobby government and say, look, these changes need to come in, that it requires additional funding. It requires the scrutiny to make sure that caterers are keeping up with the nutritional analysis, and it needs regular inspection to make sure that what's landing on the plate in front of the child is exactly what the regulations state.
That's a pretty comprehensive plan to be getting on with. Quickly, let us know what you'll be up to today.
Today we've got to take it as it comes, because it's going to be a very active day. Yesterday I was in a school in Birmingham where the staff were all out with corona. One tested positive, so the whole team's gone. We've then got to jump in and work in that kitchen. In the afternoon I was in Sergeant Malcolm's school in Lincolnshire, emptying fridges and freezers there to a local charity that feeds the homeless. Today we're expecting the calls to come in and do more firefighting to make sure that we can keep feeding the children around England. Just one thing to add on that is, during the lockdown, you know, we were maybe feeding 150 kids a day in a school. We're now feeding 22, and we've got the catering teams in there, but due to bubbles bursting, due to corona, we're having teams dropping like flies and having to jump in and keep the service going.
Well, dear, I hope you're able to manage your resources wisely. Adam Curtis, thanks for speaking to us.
Thanks for your time, Ghislaine.
Thank you.